Hello everyone. This video is on doorways into happiness. And if you're watching this video right now and you don't feel happy and you'd like to feel happy, that's okay. As humans, we really strive sometimes so hard that it actually works against us. And it moves us further away from happiness because we feel, why am I not happy? I deserve to be happy. Everybody else seems happy on social media with their pictures. And, oh, why am I not feeling this way? Or why can't I maintain a certain state of happiness? And the best thing to do when we're unhappy is to accept that everything changes in its own time and everything is valuable information. And so if you're feeling sad, because we don't know where one person begins and we don't know where another person ends, we don't even know whether the sadness you're feeling belongs to you. You might be very sensitive. You might be feeling into the collective sadness or some collective stress that's exiting on the planet. Maybe the sadness is a way of communication. It's got lessons, it's got some information in it, and nothing's a waste product. The sadness is not something that needs to just be thrown away and replaced with happiness as soon as possible, because the sadness can be a release of something that happened previously. It can be a transmutation of something in the collective. It can be a way of communicating that this path direction needs to kind of be adjusted slightly, or maybe we're doing things or saying things or listening to things which maybe we can move away from. And I'm not here to decipher what the message is, only you can decipher what your message is, and we can decipher that when we stop pushing, when we stop wishing it away, when we accept this is a gift, it's here, the sadness is here. There's part of me that wants to replace the sadness as soon as possible with some happiness, but I can just pause. I can feel the sadness. I can relax the body. I can ask the sadness to be as big as it wants to be, knowing it will change in its own time. And if the sadness stays, I can hold space for it. I don't need to get angry with it. Sometimes we're so afraid of sadness, we don't want to be around sad people. We judge them as failures, we judge ourselves, we hide our sadness, we only want to post positive things. And sadness is part of life, and sadness and happiness, they're two sides of the same coin. Without the sadness, you wouldn't know what happiness is, and without happiness, you wouldn't know what sadness is. And when sadness is allowed to pass, then happiness may or may not arise. You may just feel steady and not like bubble up in happiness. But really, we just have to trust that there's an intelligent process going on. There's an intelligent process going on. The sadness is intelligent. It's showing you things. It's a gift. And the doorway into happiness is through making friends and having acceptance of any sadness, because they are twins, they're joined, the happiness and the sadness, the coin, the two sides of the same coin, they're one thing. So we have to make friends with the sadness. We have to make friends with any resistance and drop it and let go. And then the coin can turn and we can feel happiness. But happiness can be overrated. We don't need to be just rushing, 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 trying to be happy. Yogis couldn't care less about happiness. They couldn't care less about bliss. They just want to put their conscious attention on the stillness, and whatever passes, whether it's bliss, whether it's unhappiness, it's a big emotion, it just is irrelevant. It's allowed to pass through, it's not judged, but it's like not the thing. So thank you if you're feeling sad and you're holding space for it, because when you're holding space for your sadness, you're not just holding space for your sadness, you're holding space for everybody's sadness. And we need to stop sadness shaming the sadness, but just allowing it to be there. It's just stress exiting in its own time. And there's always information in any stress. And sadness creates a little stress in the nervous system and it carries information. Maybe there's things we're saying to people that we don't want to be saying. Maybe there's things we're seeing too much of that's upsetting us. Maybe we're listening to things that are triggering for the body and the nervous system. Because we all have different thresholds of what stresses we can take in. And if we're taking in too much, and I see this with people just doom scrolling on their social media, we're not designed for taking in too much information of what's happening to everything else on the planet and all these people. It will create sadness because we don't know where one person begins, we don't know where the other ends. We are connected to everybody. And the best way is to feel stillness and relaxation within one's own physiology, to return back to calm. Because when we return back to calm, we help everybody else. So if you want to help somebody else and you see that they're suffering, whether you see it on the news or you see it with your friend or your family or your partner, the best thing you can do is find stillness and return back to calm, because we're all interconnected. So the more people that return back to calm, the more people that will just naturally shift into a happier space, because information is always shared, stress is always shared. And so sometimes when somebody's suffering, we feel like we need to join them in their suffering. We feel like maybe we're guilty for being happy if they're sad. No, no, no. The best thing we can do is to remain steady and calm, return to calm, be para. When there's chaos, be para, still and steady like a rock. When there's all this water rushing past it in a fast-moving stream, where the rock in the fast-moving stream, everything's changing, but the rock's staying steady, the rock's not judging, it's not arguing with the water, it's just in its essential nature, steady. And the more people that are steady and return back to calm, the easier that everybody else on the planet will have an easier time of it. And so I know I've heard people are freaking out about what's going on, but there's always beautiful, good news that you can tap into, as well as negative news at any moment in time. And so if your sadness is being triggered because of what you're seeing and hearing and you feel helpless, you're never helpless. You can always return back to calm. You can do breathing exercises, mindfulness, meditation, get some rest, put your attention on something else, and that calmness will spread out in the atmosphere. And so it's like hygiene, it's like brushing your teeth. We don't want to have bad breath, we want to brush our teeth, right? we don't want to be in some dysregulated state for a long time because we're taking in too much negative information, because that's just going to make it harder for not only ourselves but the whole world because we're interconnected. So we return to calm. And there's plenty of meditation content on this channel. There's playlists where I have 10-minute meditations, 20-minute meditations, 30-minute meditations, effortless. You can use them. You may have your own technique. You may have some other techniques you use. Whatever works for you, your hygiene, your you're taking care of yourself, setting aside that sacred time to return back to yourself and to the stillness is essential. It's so easy for the coin from sadness to happiness to turn when we have an effortless meditation practice. So there are many different doorways into happiness. Effortless meditation is a big doorway into happiness. And if you go through that, there's other doorways, different types of meditation practices. Maybe some of you practice mindfulness-based meditation practices. Maybe some of you have mantra-based meditation practices. Maybe other people have different meditation practices. As long as they work for you and you find them easy and effortless and something that maybe your body likes to do, because the body's not going to want to return back to a practice if it's uncomfortable. And so finding something that's comfortable, that's easy. We don't need to make it hard for ourselves. And I used to teach mindfulness meditation and practice mindfulness. And now I do mantra-based meditation twice daily. I use my TM mantra that I was given. It's from the Transcendental Meditation, and that works for me. I can still do my mindfulness practice, but I don't do it at the same time. But once you transcend and you have an effortless practice, the body, once we've done it for a while, it's like a Pavlovian bell. You sit, you know you're going to meditate, and you transcend. It's like the body knows where it's going. It knows how to get down into that deep, deep, still state. And for those of you who would like to experience that, and maybe you're having trouble with your mindfulness, I highly recommend transcendental meditation. For me, it worked. But if something else is working for you, that's fine too. But that's a possibility for some of you who are finding mindfulness difficult. I always say, if you find mindfulness difficult, try the TM, try the transcendental meditation. It's very, very, very effective. It's like a pickaxe to stress, and it drops your cortisol levels so much, so you can drop further than you would. Your cortisol levels drop further than they would when they're, just sleeping. So there's a lot of science behind it. So I highly recommend it. And that is a real doorway into happiness. Mantra-based meditation, when it works, when the mantra is ignited, is a massive doorway into happiness. Because it just removes oceans and oceans of stress. And when the stress is removed, you just rise up into happiness. So if anyone's struggling, that's always a possibility if it resonates with you. Going out into nature. Nature is so still. that it has the capacity to just remove the stress because you sync up with the vibration of the trees and the earth and the plants and the little animals. And it just, you sync up and they take out some of your stress and they dissolve the stress for you. And so being in nature, connecting with nature is another doorway into happiness. Taking care of the physiology is a doorway into happiness because we can't be happy if we're trashing our body, if we're not sleeping, if we're eating very bad food. When I used to work at the rehab, we were very careful. I worked at a rehab for people who are suffering from addictions in Malibu, and we had to make sure that everybody was eating a lot of good food because it affects the brain. If you're having a load of processed food, it's not helpful. And so making sure you eat home cooked, healthy, natural foods, that's really important. And from a Vedic perspective, we take on the energy of everything we eat. So even if the chef is in a bad mood and then you eat it, you're taking on that. If you've if you're not vegetarian and you're eating an animal and that animal was in a terrified, horrified state and there was no respect for the animal was just taken without respect, you're taking on that nasty energy. And so there are ways that indigenous tribes they do kill animals, but they kill them with respect. And so the energy exchange is different. But the factories that don't show respect, if you're eating a lot of factory farmed food, you're taking on that energy, that disrespectful energy, and it does affect your happiness. So look at what you're eating, look at where you're getting your food from, because your body and your mind is made up of the components that you're eating. And make sure your gut bacteria is being cared for. You're having probiotics. If you've had antibiotics, be careful. Make sure you have probiotics when you take antibiotics. If you need to take antibiotics, take care of your gut bacteria. Happiness arises from the gut. When we're anxious, we feel it in the gut. I make sure to do panchakarma, which is a cleanse that helps my gut and gets rid of toxins. And I do that under medical supervision from an Ayurvedic doctor. And I'm not an expert myself, so I'm not going to go into it, but you can look into that and do it under a medical professional. And so there's plenty of gateways into happiness. Happiness isn't just something mental. It happens from a clean physiology, cleaning the physiology, taking care of the body, loving the body, giving the body rest, giving the body the correct amount of food, not overeating, not undereating, making sure that it's come from loving places, respectful, loving places. That will help us be happy. It's not something that people talk about. They just think, oh, I need to go for a run and then I'll get some dopamine and feel happy. But then if you go for a run and then you eat a load of processed food, you will be taking on the unhappiness of the processed food. And so as we expand our awareness of what we're taking in is really important. And when we enter stillness, there's like a reset that happens, and we begin to notice it more. The things that we used to be able to do, we might no longer be able to do. Like, for example, I used to be able to drink alcohol, but after doing the city program, I can't drink alcohol anymore. It's like my body knows, this isn't going to work for you. I'm not saying that it's not going to work for everybody, but for me, I've become more aware that my body doesn't like it. It's the same with chocolate. I used to be able to eat a lot of chocolate, but the more stillness practices I've done, I realize that it's wiring me out. I'm getting anxious if I eat too much. A little bit's fine, but if I eat too much, I get wired out. Also, I notice how it affects my immunity too. If I eat a lot of chocolate, it lowers my immunity. And so, especially at Christmas time when I'm eating chocolates from people who've given me gifts, I really have to be careful because if I eat a load of chocolate, I tend to get a cold. There seems to be a connection there. And so we remember the effects of what we've taken in more easily the more stillness practice we do, and we're more able to adjust without a fight because our body's syncing up with nature and knows what's best. And it's not an effort. When we return back to calm, we just sync up very easily with this intelligence that knows what we should and shouldn't be doing. And we don't have to like make it a mental exercise like I have to stop doing this and then I'm beating myself up because I've done it and I shouldn't have done it. That tends to fall away, and it's just I just don't fancy eating that much chocolate, or I don't want to go and drink and get drunk. These things just fall away. Anything that's not life supporting falls away with stillness practice. So there are things we can do, even if we don't have a stillness practice. We can just imagine the other person is us. And if the other person is us, we want to make sure we treat the other person as we would want to be treated ourselves. And if we do that, happiness arises in our life. Because if we're treating people in a different way that we would treat ourselves, that creates unhappiness whether we're aware of it or not. And so everybody needs to be treated with respect. And the more we treat other people with respect, the more happiness arises, because we don't get away with disrespecting people. We're disrespecting ourselves whether we know it or not. We don't get away with judging people. We're judging ourselves whether we know it or not. We don't get away with hurting other people. We're hurting ourselves whether we know it or not. Whether we know it or not, whether we have the awareness of it or not is irrelevant. It's just won't lead to happiness. So for those of you who are not into meditation, you can do an experiment and just trust me and try and treat other people with respect and see if you become happier. Do it for yourself. Be selfish. Say, I'm doing it for myself because Aruna said I'd be happier if I treat people with respect. Do it for a week, and then just extend it to another week if it works. I know I'm usually disrespectful to that person and I don't like that person, but I'm going to try this way. And yeah, let me know in the comments. Plenty of gateways. You choose yours.